Have you ever noticed how the world is constantly drawn to the loudest events? Wars, political chaos, earthquakes, disasters. They dominate our headlines and fill our conversations. Everywhere you turn, people are glued to breaking news, trying to guess what will happen next. But what if I told you, while the world is distracted, something far greater has already taken place? Something most people missed. A sign that doesn't scream across the skies with fire and thunder, but whispers directly to the heart. This is not a rumor. It's not speculation. And it's not a prophecy tucked far away in the future. It's happening right now, before our very eyes. The most important sign connected to the rapture has already appeared. And the question is, did you notice it? Or have the distractions of our time caused you to overlook what Jesus himself said would matter the most? You see, many of us expect the end to arrive with massive world-shaking events. Nations collapsing, flames falling from heaven, earthquakes leveling cities. But Jesus never said those things would be the true test of who is ready. He spoke of something deeper, something that cannot be measured by headlines or captured by a news camera. This is where the story gets uncomfortable, even controversial, because the sign that matters most has already shown itself. And it's not about global predictions or political changes. It's about something hidden, something that reveals a condition of the heart. And here's the truth. If you miss this sign, you may miss the final preparation. But if you see it, if you recognize it, you'll not only understand what Jesus was pointing to, you'll know how to prepare yourself right now. This is not a message meant to scare you. It's a message meant to wake you. Because when Jesus gave us this sign, he never intended for it to stay hidden. He intended it to shake us, to call us back, to prepare us before it's too late. So lean in closely. Don't let your heart drift, because what you're about to hear could determine whether you are truly ready when the moment comes. And now, let's step into the deeper truth, the sign Jesus revealed, the one almost no one is talking about. When we think about the end times, our minds are often filled with dramatic images, explosions on the news, nations rising against nations, entire cities collapsing under earthquakes. Our hearts instinctively tie prophecy to the things we can see and measure. But Jesus gave us a warning. He told us that wars and rumors of wars would come, but that they were only the beginning, not the end. He shifted the focus away from what we see on the outside and pointed us instead to something much quieter, something within. Think about it for a moment. When an earthquake shakes the ground, everyone notices. Even unbelievers stop and pay attention. But when the human heart begins to grow cold, who notices then? Hardly anyone. And yet, that's where the true danger lies. Because what good is it to track every headline, to study every world crisis, if inside our homes and inside our hearts, faith is already collapsing? This is where so many believers are caught off guard. They're awake to the noise of the world, but asleep to the silence of their own spirit. They're waiting for sirens, but missing the soft warning Jesus already gave. And what was that warning? He said, "Because lawlessness will increase, the love of many will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved." Matthew 24, verses 12 to 13. Notice carefully. Jesus didn't say those who correctly interpret global events will be saved. He didn't say those who witness the biggest disasters will be caught up. His focus was entirely different. It was about endurance. It was about keeping love alive when everything around us grows cold. That's the true sign, the condition of the heart, the silent test. Imagine this with me. A person sits in church every Sunday. They sing the songs. They raise their hands. They even know the scriptures. On the outside, everything looks alive. But inside, the flame is flickering. The oil in the lamp is running out. And one day, it quietly goes dark. No camera will capture that. No headline will warn the world about it. Yet in heaven's eyes, it's the most decisive sign of all. Because in the end, the rapture is not about surviving earthquakes. It's not about predicting wars. It's about whether your heart is still burning for Christ when love all around you has grown cold. That is why this sign is more dangerous than any natural disaster. Because it slips in unnoticed. It spreads slowly like a chill in the air. And before long, a church that was once on fire becomes lukewarm. A family that once prayed together now drifts into silence. A believer who once forgave quickly now clings to bitterness. This is not speculation. This is a reality we are living in right now. A spiritual reality check. Let me ask you something personal. Do you still long for God in prayer the way you once did? Or has prayer become something you rush through, just another item on your busy list? Do you still forgive easily? Or do you find yourself holding on to offenses, quietly letting your heart harden? These are not small details. They are the clearest evidence of whether your faith is alive or drifting into sleep. Jesus never said the last days would be about surviving disasters. He said the true challenge would be this: to keep your love alive when the world around you is going cold. That means the greatest battle is not out there in nations, but in here, in the heart, the illusion of readiness. The tragedy is that many believers confuse routine with readiness. They think attending church is the same as being prepared. They think knowing about prophecy means they will be safe. But the truth is, routine can disguise a sleeping spirit. Sermons can be heard, but never lived. Worship can be sung, but never touch the heart. Prayers can be spoken, but without fire. This is what Jesus warned about. The church of Laodicea in Revelation was not accused of sin in the obvious sense. They were not described as rebellious or violent. They were described as lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, outwardly alive, but inwardly fading. And Jesus said something shocking. Because you are lukewarm, I will spit you out of my mouth. Revelation 3, verse 16. Do you see it? The danger was not an external persecution, but an internal apathy. The most deadly condition is not hatred of God, but indifference toward Him. Why this matters now, and here's the urgency. The sign Jesus spoke of, love growing cold, is not something waiting for the future. It is happening right now. Look around. Step into many churches today. The sermons may be polished, the worship may be beautiful, the seats may be full, but something is missing. The fire has been replaced by performance. The form remains, but the power is gone. People scroll endlessly through social media, but cannot spend 10 minutes in Scripture. They know every detail about politics and world events, but rarely know what God is speaking in His Word. This is not a matter of lacking time. It's a matter of misplaced priorities. And the enemy doesn't need to destroy faith with one dramatic blow. All he needs is distraction, neglect, and lukewarmness. That is how love quietly grows cold. The cost of coldness. The fading of love is one of the clearest proofs of this sign. Where believers once carried each other's burdens, now convenience has replaced sacrifice. Where forgiveness once flowed quickly, now grudges and divisions linger. Even in families, prayer is rare. Conversations about God are replaced by screens, and children grow more connected to devices than to the Spirit. This isn't just an accident. It's the very fulfillment of what Jesus said would come. And perhaps the most alarming part is this. Many don't even notice the difference anymore. Lukewarmness has become normal. A shallow version of faith is now passing for Christianity. Churches can still be full, but passion is scarce. Leaders can still preach, but hearts remain untouched. And yet, this was a sign Jesus emphasized. Not wars, not disasters, but love growing cold. The hidden danger. Why do so few people notice this sign? Because it doesn't make headlines. Wars, pandemics, earthquakes, they dominate the news cycle. But no reporter will ever announce, love is growing cold inside the church. This sign requires spiritual discernment, not breaking news. And because it calls us to self-examination instead of spectacle, many choose to ignore it. It is easier to point at global chaos than to look inward at a fading heart. It feels safer to monitor the world than to examine ourselves. But Jesus warned us. In the days of Noah, people were eating, drinking, marrying, and living normally, blind to judgment that was coming. Prophetic blindness is when people think they would recognize the big signs, but miss the subtle, decisive one. The coldness of love doesn't arrive with noise. It slips in quietly, almost invisibly, until it's too late. The question becomes deeply personal. Is your heart still burning for Christ, or has it begun to grow cold? Because the real test of the rapture is not about how much we know. It's about whether we endure in love. whether we keep the flame alive when the world is going numb. This is the dividing line. Those who endure with love and faith will be ready. Those who surrender to indifference will be exposed as unprepared. That is why Jesus pointed to the sign as the ultimate one, not an event in the sky, not a headline in the news, but the hidden condition of the soul. So now we arrive at the heart of it all. After everything Jesus said, after all the warnings and signs, it comes down to this: the flame of love in your heart. When we strip away the noise, the politics, the headlines, the debates, what remains is whether we are still watching, still waiting, still loving Him above all else. That is the question that cannot be ignored. And maybe as you've listened to this message, you felt a quiet tug, a recognition that somewhere along the way, the fire has dimmed. Maybe you remember a time when prayer was your joy, when worship brought tears, when Scripture felt alive in your hands. And now, if you're honest, that passion feels distant. Friend, that recognition is not condemnation. It is mercy. It is Jesus calling you back before it's too late. Because here's the good news: the flame can be rekindled. Coldness does not have to have the final word. The same Spirit who lit the fire in your heart when you first believed is able to breathe on those embers again. But it requires honesty. It requires turning away from distractions and returning to the one who loved you first. It requires choosing intimacy over indifference, devotion over routine. Jesus is not looking for a perfect record. He is looking for hearts that are awake, hearts that endure, hearts that burn with love when the world grows cold. And this is where hope rises. Because even though the sign is sobering, even though love has grown cold in many, it does not have to grow cold in you. You can be among those who endure. You can be among those who stay awake. You can be among those whose lamps are burning when the bridegroom comes. The final call. Imagine that moment. The trumpet sounds. The heavens open. The bridegroom appears. The world may be caught in chaos, but the faithful are caught up in glory. Not because they tracked every global event perfectly. Not because they decoded every prophecy, but because when the moment came, their hearts were still burning with love for Him. That is the real preparation. That is the real sign. So today, don't harden your heart. Don't let distractions steal your devotion. Don't let the coldness of the world creep into your spirit. Instead, choose now to return. Choose to draw close again. Choose to fan and to flame the love that once burned bright. Because when everything else fades away, that love is what will matter most. And perhaps, just perhaps, that is why you are hearing this message today. Not by accident, not by coincidence, but because Jesus is still calling His people to be ready. The time is short. The signs are clear. And the question remains, when He comes, will we find faith, will we find love still alive in you?